I should have turned back the moment I saw them. Footprints leading into the woods, with no tracks coming out. Curiosity got the best of me, and what I found out there, it still keeps me up at night. If you think you're alone in the snow, think again. Before we dive into this true nightmare, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell, because you're going to want to hear what happens next. And trust me, you'll never look at snow the same way again. I woke up to silence. Not the kind of silence you hear in the city when the traffic dips, or the hum of appliances takes a break, but the kind that feels thick, heavy, like the world was holding its breath. I sat up on the couch, still half wrapped in that old wool blanket I'd found in the cabin closet the night before. My coffee had long gone cold, sitting on the small table by the window. I didn't sleep well. Something about being that far removed from everything. No cell service, no internet, no background noise. Messes with your sense of time. You forget how loud your own heartbeat sounds in complete stillness. When I looked outside, everything was white. It had snowed overnight. Fresh, untouched snow spread across the forest floor like a clean sheet of paper. I stared at it for a minute, just appreciating the kind of peace you don't get when you're surrounded by people all the time. The sky was gray, the kind that tells you more snow is coming. Windless, dead quiet. And that's when I saw them. Footprints. Just one trail, perfectly spaced, heading straight into the tree line behind the cabin. No animal tracks, no sled marks, nothing else. Just a clean line of human footprints. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe someone else was out here. Another hiker, maybe a ranger. But that thought didn't sit right. The nearest house was at least 10 miles out. The ranger station was even farther. I hadn't seen a soul in 2 days. No vehicles, no tire marks leading up the road. Just me, the cabin, and snow. Still, maybe someone got lost. Or worse, maybe someone needed help. I stood there, staring at those prints longer than I probably should have. My brain kept looping the same question. Where's the return trail? The snow was fresh, untouched. If someone walked into the woods, they didn't come back out. I should have called it then. Should have gone back inside, locked the door, and waited it out. But you know that feeling you get when curiosity starts crawling under your skin? Like a whisper in your ear saying, just a quick look, just check it out. You'll feel better once you know. That's what it was like. So I pulled on my boots, threw on my coat, and stepped outside. The cold bit at my face immediately. I followed the tracks. They were deep. Whoever made them wasn't running, just walking slowly, deliberately. Each one looked sharp and fresh. No snow had drifted over them yet, which meant whoever it was, they'd come through not long before I'd looked out the window. I didn't call out. I don't know why. Something about the silence felt sacred, like I'd break something if I spoke. My breath puffed out in little clouds, the only movement around me. The farther I walked, the more the trees started to close in. The shadows stretched longer, even though it was barely morning. I should have turned around. I should have never taken that first step. But once you start following something out there, in the quiet and the snow, it's hard to stop. Hard to know when you've gone too far. I don't know how long I followed those tracks. Out there, time sort of slips away from you. The snow deadens every sound. The crunch of my boots, the snap of a distant branch. It all felt like it was happening underwater. The deeper I went into the woods, the quieter it got. No birds, no wind, not even the creak of the trees. The tracks just kept going, always in a straight line. never veering off, never hesitating. And the weird thing was, they looked too perfect. No signs of slipping, no unevenness, like someone had measured every step. Too consistent, too clean. I tried to tell myself I was being dramatic, overthinking things. But there's this thing that happens when your brain knows something is wrong before you do. It starts small. A tight feeling in your chest, a little twist in your gut. That feeling was growing stronger with every step. I passed a fallen tree at one point. Looked like it had been there for years, half frozen into the ground. And right next to it, I saw the first strange thing. Something small caught in the snow. A glove, kid-sized, bright red, but stiff, like it had been frozen solid for days. I picked it up without thinking, and immediately dropped it. It was soaked, still wet, but the air was freezing. It should have been ice by now. That's when I started to realize I hadn't seen any animal tracks, not a single rabbit hop or deer print, just those same footsteps dragging me deeper into the woods. Then came the scarf, hung up on a low branch like someone had draped it there on purpose. Striped blue and black, looked handmade. As I got closer, I noticed it was frozen stiff too, but only on the outside. The part inside the knot still moved when I touched it, still soft, like it hadn't been there long. At that point, I should have gone back. I remember thinking, this isn't right. This isn't normal. But I kept going, like I was under some kind of pull, not hypnotized, just compelled, like whatever made those tracks wanted me to follow, like it was waiting. And then the trees started changing. They got denser, darker. The light didn't reach the ground anymore. I could barely see past a few feet in front of me. The snow here was deeper too, climbing up past my ankles, even though it had looked flat from a distance. And still, those tracks continued, untouched, unwavering. That's when I heard it, just the faintest sound behind me. A branch snapping. Not loud, but sharp. Quick. I froze and turned around fast. But there was nothing. No movement. No tracks. Nothing but the trail I'd made walking in. Still, something about that sound didn't feel like an animal. It felt intentional. That's the word that kept echoing in my head. Intentional. And even though every part of me was screaming to turn around and get back to the cabin, I didn't. I took another step forward, because by then, I wasn't just following tracks anymore. I was chasing answers. The tracks finally stopped. I didn't notice it right away. I was too focused on my footing, watching each step to make sure I didn't trip on some hidden route under the snow. But then I looked up, and there it was. A cabin, just sitting there, like it had grown out of the forest itself. It wasn't on any map. I know because I checked everything before I took this trip. I'd memorized every trail, every marked shelter, every ranger post. And yet, this place stood there like it had always been, part of the woods, silent, forgotten. The roof sagged under the weight of snow, and the wood siding looked weathered and gray. Windows on either side of the door, fogged over, cracked. The whole thing leaned slightly to the right, like it was exhaling after years of holding its breath. But what stopped me cold was the snow around it. It was untouched, not a single print, not from an animal, not from a person, not even wind marks. And the footsteps I'd been following, they ended about 20 feet from the front door, just stopped, like the person had walked into thin air. I stood there for what felt like forever, trying to figure it out. Did they go inside, climb the roof, jump into the trees? None of it made sense. My brain kept trying to fit the pieces together, but none of them matched. I took a step forward, then another. Each crunch of snow underfoot felt louder now, like the woods were listening, waiting. When I reached the porch, I hesitated. The door was slightly ajar, not open wide, just enough to let in the cold. No footprints, no sign of movement, just that half-inch of darkness between the door and the frame, like an invitation you know you shouldn't accept. But I pushed it open anyway. It creaked. Of course it did. These places always creak. Inside, it was dim. Dust hung in the air, catching the weak light from outside. There were no lights, no candles, nothing lit. Just a natural gray light spilling in through the cracked windows. The air smelled stale, like old wood, something faintly metallic. I thought maybe rust, but there was another scent under it, sweet, faintly rotting. The place paused. There was a table near the fireplace, set for two. Plates, utensils, cups still sitting like someone had stepped away mid-meal. But the dust was thick, years thick. Spiderwebs clung to the corners of the ceiling. A kettle sat on the stove, frozen solid. Time hadn't moved in here. And yet, on the wall near the fireplace there were photos. Black and white, yellowed around the edges. Faded. One looked like a family. 2 adults, 1 child. But I couldn't make out the faces clearly. The glass was smudged, almost fogged up from the inside. And then I saw it. One of the photos. Middle row, far right. It was me. Same jacket, same hat. Standing in the snow. Smiling. But I've never taken that photo. Not in my life. That's when the floor creaked above me. Not behind me. Not beside me. Directly above. And I realized, whatever I was following, it never left. I didn't move at first. That sound from upstairs, it wasn't loud. Just a single creak, like someone shifting their weight on an old floorboard. But in that silence, it echoed. Deep. Heavy. Not a sound a house makes on its own. It was too specific. I stared at the ceiling like it might open up and show me what was up there. My breath caught in my throat, and for the first time since stepping outside that morning, I realized how fast my heart was beating. Loud enough I could hear it in my ears. I backed away from the fireplace, almost stumbling over the corner of a worn rug. Every instinct I had told me to leave, to turn and run. But something else held me in place. Some part of my mind that needed to understand, needed to see. I turned and scanned the room again, trying to make sense of it all. That photo still burned into my vision. I didn't want to look at it again, but I couldn't stop myself. I walked back over, got close. It really was me, right down to the patch on my sleeve. But the background wasn't the woods. It was this cabin. I was standing right outside it. That shouldn't be possible. I took a shaky breath and forced myself to look away. The air felt colder now. My fingers were numb, even though I hadn't been out long enough for frostbite. There was something in the walls. A weight. A pressure. Like the house itself was holding a secret it didn't want to share. I spotted the staircase near the far corner. Narrow. Wooden. Steep. The kind that makes you hold the railing tight so you don't slip. I took 1 step toward it and stopped. Another creak. This time not from above. It came from the kitchen. I turned sharply but saw nothing. Just dusty counters, old cabinets, a sink full of frozen water. No movement, no sound. And then, a whisper. I don't know what it said. I couldn't make out the words. Just a hushed, breathy voice, like someone standing just behind a closed door, whispering to someone else. Faint, fast, almost rhythmic. I spun around again, half expecting something to be right behind me. Still nothing, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was there. Not visible, not yet, but watching, listening, waiting. That's when I noticed the photos again. They'd changed. The photo of me. It wasn't me anymore. It was still the same jacket, the same pose, but the face wasn't mine. The smile had widened, just slightly, too wide, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes, the kind people fake when they're pretending to be human. That was enough. I turned on my heel and headed straight for the front door. I didn't look back. My hand hit the doorknob and froze. It was warm. Everything else was freezing. My breath fogged in the air. The kettle in the kitchen had ice in it. But that doorknob was warm, like someone had just been holding it from the other side. Then I heard it again. Footsteps. But this time, they were above me and behind me. One set coming down the stairs, the other moving across the ceiling. I didn't wait to see who or what they belonged to. I threw the door open and ran. The cold hit me like a slap as soon as I burst through the cabin door. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I felt it. Something right behind me. Just out of sight. Like the air itself had shape and weight and was pressing in close. I ran. My boots tore through the snow, slipping on hidden ice, tripping over buried roots. I didn't care. I just ran. Branches clawed at my jacket, scraped my face, but I kept going, lungs burning with every breath. All I could hear was my heartbeat pounding in my ears and the crunch of snow behind me. Not mine. Something was following, but it wasn't like before. The steps behind me didn't match mine. They were slower, measured, almost playful, as if whatever was back there knew exactly where I was going and wasn't in a hurry. I risked a glance over my shoulder. Nothing, just trees and fallen snow. But I knew I wasn't alone. You don't have to see something to know it's there. The feeling was in my bones. And then I saw the tracks again. Not mine. The same perfect, evenly spaced footprints I'd followed earlier. Only now they were appearing one by one, fresh, forming in front of me in the untouched snow, like something invisible was walking just ahead. I stopped, just stopped cold, watching as one footprint, then another, pressed into the snow by themselves, leading me, number luring me. I turned off the path and ran blindly into the trees. I didn't care where I was going anymore, just away, away from whatever had led me there. But the woods, they didn't look right. I couldn't recognize anything. Trees all looked the same. The sky had turned darker, thicker with clouds. Snow was falling harder now, and it was silent. No wind, no distant animals, just that crushing, empty silence. I tried to retrace my steps, but they were gone. Completely. I looked behind me, expecting to see my own trail, something to guide me back. But the snow was flat, smooth, like I'd never been there at all. That's when I really started to panic. I started shouting. I don't even know what. Just noise, hoping someone would hear. But nothing answered. Not even an echo. Like the sound was being swallowed. And then I saw it. In the distance, through the trees. My cabin. The real one. Same sloped roof. Same smoke pipe. Same little shed next to it. It looked normal. Familiar. Safe. I ran toward it, heart pounding, legs barely holding me up. I reached the door, yanked it open, and slammed it shut behind me, locked it, bolted it, pressed my back against it, and slid to the floor, breathing like I'd just come up from drowning. Silence. I stayed there for what felt like hours, but something was wrong. At first I couldn't put my finger on it. Everything looked the same. the furniture, the blankets, the wood stove. But then I noticed the boots by the door. They weren't mine, and the coat hanging on the hook. It was the same style as mine, but not the same size. Too big. Then the kettle on the stove let out a faint hiss, like steam escaping. But I hadn't lit the fire, and slowly, from outside the cabin, came the sound of footsteps in the snow, walking in circles, just outside my window. At some point, I must have fallen asleep, or blacked out. I don't know. I was on the floor by the door, and everything was dark when I opened my eyes again. Not just nighttime dark, wrong dark. The kind that makes you feel like the walls are too close, like you're not supposed to be awake. The fire in the stove was out, though I couldn't remember starting one in the first place. The air was heavy, colder than before, but still I was sweating, like something in the room was watching, breathing, waiting. I sat up slowly, listening. The footsteps were gone, but in their place, something else. A low, distant hum, not mechanical, not electrical, almost like chanting, whispered voices layered on top of each other. Male, female, old, young, all of them whispering the same thing over and over, too quiet to understand, too loud to ignore. It was coming from outside. I don't know what made me do it, but I got up, moved toward the window. Part of me was screaming to stay put, to hide, but curiosity always finds a way to overpower fear, even when it shouldn't. I pulled the curtain back just an inch, and froze. Outside in the clearing were people. At least, they looked like people. Dozens of them, standing in the snow, perfectly still, facing the cabin, faces shadowed like they didn't have features, just dark smudges where eyes and mouths should be, and all of them barefoot. Each one stood in a pair of footprints. The footprints. That same clean, deliberate trail I'd followed earlier, repeated again and again, stretching from the edge of the woods to the front of the cabin. They were all wearing different clothes, old styles, some modern, some from another time. Torn jackets, worn dresses, military coats, hospital gowns, like they didn't belong to the same world. And at the center of them, closer than the rest, was me. I know how that sounds, but it was me. Same face, same clothes I was wearing right then, staring directly at the window. No expression, just standing, arms at the side, as if waiting for something. My stomach dropped. I stumbled back from the window, breathing hard, hands shaking. I wanted to scream, but my voice was gone. Stuck. My mind kept flashing to the photo in that other cabin, the one that shouldn't have existed, the me that wasn't me. And suddenly it all made sense. The tracks in the snow. They weren't left by someone. They were for someone. They weren't leading me to something. They were pulling me back to something I'd forgotten. Or maybe something I'd never escaped. That's when I noticed the journal. It was lying on the table, leather-bound, cracked at the spine. I swear it hadn't been there before. I picked it up slowly, hands trembling. Inside, handwritten notes, dates, entries, stories. Every page told a version of what I'd just lived. Different names, same footprints, same cabin, same fate. Some ended in escape. Most didn't. And on the last page, freshly written, in my own handwriting, you followed them, just like I did. And underneath it, just one word, scribbled in all caps over and over, filling the rest of the page. Stay, stay, stay. I dropped the journal, because deep inside me, I understood what it meant. This place didn't want to hurt me. It wanted to keep me. If you made it this far, thank you. But if you ever see footprints in fresh snow with no return trail, don't follow them. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the story, and subscribe for more real horror. And remember, some tracks lead you to places you can't come back from.